Hey soldiers, it's looking more and more likely that our political leadership throughout the world wants to destroy the global economy. I'm not engaging in clickbait. I'm not engaging in hyperbole. This is real. These people are making statements every day that ratchets up the threat of nuclear holocaust. I'm not even going to call it nuclear war. Nuclear holocaust. And they're even talking about, well, we use low-yield tactical nuclear weapons. So what? Any nuclear detonation in this world done in anger or in the furtherance of some conflict would destroy not just the economy, our way of life, and many, many lives, okay? This is something that can just escalate beyond our ability to control. And I cannot believe that these people are actually talking about this, but they are. Okay, so we're going to get into it right now. All right, so let's look at the first thing. Putin a gift to NATO. The UK's defense chief says in urging even more spending. Now, we went over the trouble that the United Kingdom is having right now from a financial standpoint. You would think it would be all hands on deck trying to figure out how to heat the homes of their citizens, how to keep their industry going throughout this upcoming winter. You would think they'd be totally focused on that, but no. Days after U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken called the sabotage attacks on the Nord Stream pipelines a, quote, tremendous opportunity, unquote, the UK's top defense chief expressed something similar, describing Putin and his war on Ukraine as a gift, quote, a gift, unquote, to the NATO alliance. They are literally salivating over war. Now, let me address an elephant that may be in the room. Yes, I do invest in a defense contractor. I've talked about it many times on the channel. And I do it because I believe in a strong defense. Listen, I grew up in West Baltimore. And if people knew that you had a whole bunch of guns in the house and were willing to use them, guess what? You weren't going to have any problems because everybody knew you had a strong defense. I carry that same philosophy into geopolitics. In fact, it's what kept the Soviet Union and America from going to war, nuclear war, during the Cold War. What's called MAD, or mutually assured destruction. Cooler heads prevailed as a result of it. But now we're in a whole new territory because we've got everybody and their mama talking about war and more war, nuclear war. I want a strong defense so that we won't go to war. But these individuals seem like they want a strong defense so that they can go to war. British Defense Secretary Ben Wallace addressed the two-day Warsaw Security Forum on Tuesday and talked about the need for a, quote, wake-up call, unquote, for NATO countries. He then went on to say, and this is a quote from this guy, okay, he is the equivalent of our Secretary of Defense. Many nations in Europe had become complacent after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and that Russian President Vladimir Putin has become, in a sense, a gift to NATO. And he's saying that because it gives the military-industrial complex a reason to just tap into us, the taxpayer. That's another reason why I do invest in a defense contractor, because I want a strong defense for my country, the country that I live in, my loved ones live in, and I do business in. But I also want to take part in the returns with regard to the taxpayer money that I'm being assessed, okay, every year. In saying this, he emphasized the theme of alliance members investing more in their militaries. Now, mind you, America invests the most in NATO. America is NATO, okay? And it wasn't until recently, Donald Trump's presidency, that Trump brought attention to the fact that NATO members weren't paying their damn bills, okay? Germany was front and center, one of the wealthiest economy in Europe, and they were leaving it up to us. That may be a reason why. That may have been by design, that may have been orchestrated by the intelligence apparatus over here in America to keep Europe in a weakened position. There's another reason why they hate Trump so much, is because he overturned that apple cart and said, no, if you're going to be in NATO, you're going to pay your own damn bills for your defense. Okay. After all, Germany is responsible for 2 world wars. Okay. So the least they could do is pick up the tab for their share of NATO. Among European officials in the audience for the Warsaw Conference included Ukraine's First Lady, Olena Zelensky, who was there to deliver a message of gratefulness for Poland and other allies' contributions of support to her country. Oh, I'm sure she is grateful. Because you can't tell me that Ukraine hasn't been used for many, many years as a money laundering operation for well-connected people right here in the United States. Our president, Joe Biden, as much as said so.
I said, you're not getting the billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch.
All right, Wallace continued on the need for greater military spending within NATO. On the surface, our militaries can boast numbers, he then explained, but below the bonnet, we have not enough infrastructure, not enough spare parts, not enough personnel, not enough modern weaponry, not enough weapon stocks. That's all coming home to roost, and we're going to have to deal with that. And that is going to cost money. That last part is letting you, the taxpayer, know that, hey, we coming for you. Your boy Joe Biden didn't just put forth funding for 87,000 IRS personnel for nothing, right? In Europe, they've got onerous taxes to begin with. So all you viewers out there in Europe, he's talking about you. Now, in the meantime, we've got a professor from Boston University who sounds like an absolute madman. This guy sounds like a raging megalomaniac. You've got to hear this guy, because if you're thinking about sending your kids up to Boston University, make sure they come nowhere near this madman, this psychopath, Laurence Koltlikoff. Listen to what he has to say with regard to how we should prevent a nuclear war. Spoiler alert. His idea on how to prevent a nuclear war is to start a nuclear war.
Substack, I'm putting out a column today about how we should respond to Putin's nuclear threats, which is to put him on the top of our target list. Say, if he launches a nuclear attack, or appears to be doing so, we should target him personally, because that will be our best deterrence to keep him from doing anything like that.
What are we supposed to do? Channel Ted Kaczynski and send him something in the mail that's, he's going to get it, open it up, and then something's going to happen? Oh, but there's more.
But absent that, there's lots of different types of nuclear wars that could occur here. It could even involve our threatening to attack China so that they put pressure in the context of a nuclear war, so that they know that they have to stop Russia right now. I mean, Russia doesn't have as many targets as we do for nuclear weapons. China does. I mean, China, if you add China and other buddies of Russia, and we start getting to have an equally target-rich environment on both sides. So we have to think a lot more strategically. And the statements that our government is now starting to make says we're going to have if Putin launches, it's going to be a catastrophic implications for Russia. That sounds like full-fledged nuclear war.
All right. So according to our intellectual better, the erudite Koltlikoff, professor, and I am loath to call him that, Professor Koltlikoff, what we ought to do is we ought to threaten China, a nuclear power, in an attempt to prevent war with Russia. And we ought to threaten Russia's allies as well. I think this guy's been drinking or smoking something or injecting something, because what that plan would basically do is isolate the hell out of us. It's just sheer stupidity, and he's he's pretty enthusiastic about it.
We will take out Moscow and St. Petersburg. And what we really need to say is not that threat, because we're not really at war with Russia. We're at war with Putin. What we really need to say is if Putin does anything, we take him out immediately. And we also take out all his buddies.
What do you mean take him out? With force?
Yes, we target him. A nuclear bomb goes to his bunker. Okay. The same minute we see them starting to.
But that's the equivalent of a nuclear bomb hitting, the White House. Isn't that a declaration of war?
Well, if he's not suicidal, and he appears to be very, very much in love with himself and concerned with his health and safety, he's not visiting Ukraine, is he, to visit the troops? Right? We have people going to Kiev in the middle of the war, or secretary, top executive, top officials. He can't even make it over, over the border there to his motherland that he's grabbed. So I think we need to threaten him personally, because that's likely to be our best deterrence.
This guy's a goddamn fool. The whole premise and how he's smiling about it means that he has spent way too much time in a university away from the real world. And this is a problem that I have expressed that we as a nation and as a world have. We have too many people who have been away from the real world too long that are actually running the world. This is why people run around and they talk about term limits. Oh, we need term limits. You already have term limits. They're called elections. If you keep going into the booth and voting for the same people, then you're the problem, not a lack of term limits. Another problem is tenure, and I'm sure Koltlikoff has it, and he can get on, the interwebs and say whatever crazy thing he feels like saying. So this is what's going on in academia, at least a portion of it. They've got the answers, right? If you went with half of what this fool said, we'd be in a Mad Max post-apocalyptic world right now. Cooler heads need to prevail, but I'm not sure if that's going to occur. Because let's take a look now at the Prime Minister for the United Kingdom, Liz Truss. She's asked this question.
You'll be ushered into a room very privately at number 10. Will be laid out in front of you what are called the letters of last resort. Your orders to our Trident boat captain on whether you, Prime Minister Liz Truss, is giving the order to unleash our nuclear weapons. It would mean global annihilation. I won't ask you, would you press the button? You will say yes. But faced with that task, I would feel physically sick. How does that thought make you feel?
I think it's an important duty of the Prime Minister. I'm ready to do that.
Notice the lemmings in the audience who cheer for nuclear annihilation. Talk about an idiocracy. Okay, and continuing on with the theme, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Tuesday signed a decree that ruled out any talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, declaring those talks would be an impossibility. So he doesn't even want to talk. He don't even want to talk truce or peace or anything like that. And why would he? He just said he's getting $1.5 billion a month from the United States of America. How do you guys down in Florida who support Biden feel about that? You just had Hurricane Ian come through. Is he pledging that kind of money to you guys per month? Of course he isn't. All right, and now for the, as I always say, the coup de grace, or if you are from my hometown of West Baltimore, the coup de grace, Poland in talks with the United States about hosting nuclear weapons. At a moment, some U.S. officials and pundits are cavalierly talking about already fighting World War III. Right, they're quite cavalier about it. Polish officials have announced that talks with the Biden administration are underway about the possibility of hosting nuclear weapons. President Andrzej Duda indicated that such nuclear sharing as NATO's largest Eastern European member, and which is just off Russia's doorstep, is now an open topic for discussion. Crucially, for the question of continued nuclear saber-rattling and confrontation with Russia, if Poland ever did host U.S. NATO nukes, it would mark a huge first for a NATO member that was once behind the Iron Curtain. Now, let me tell you why this is significant. You're a soldier of finance, so you probably already know. But for those of you who are just joining us, stationing nuclear weapons closer to Russia's border, Russia's sovereign territory, would mean that we have a better first strike capability. We'd be able to possibly strike so quickly that it would prevent Russia from retaliating. If we targeted silos, and Russia has this train that goes back and forth across the country that carries nuclear weapons supposedly, if we were able to target those things and have those missiles be able to get to those points in shorter order than if they were coming from an ally like, say, the UK or even from our mainland. If we were able to do that, that would be a heck of a trump card. No pun intended there. So that's why this is a great big deal. And if you think about it, remember, that is the issue that the Cuban Missile Crisis bubbled up. That whole thing when the Soviet Union stationed armaments in Cuba. They wanted to do that in response to the U.S. stationing armaments in Turkey. You don't hear about that aspect of it often. But both sides removed those weapons after it became clear that this may end up in nuclear annihilation. Things got hot and heavy for a while there. So the Soviet Union at the time removed its weapons. The United States removed its weapons from Turkey, and the temperature cooled. We got too many people talking about this crap right now. Many more, and again, highly enthusiastic about it. War. Okay, ratcheting up the rhetoric. And we always try to bring these things home with some sort of financial message of how you can prosper, but you're not going to prosper. Nobody's going to prosper. I don't care if a nuclear bomb was detonated somewhere way outside the American mainland or way outside Western Europe. There are no winners. There are no winners in that type of conflict. Okay, life would be changed forever. It would be a blight on the history of humanity, to say nothing about the destruction to the economy, and most of all, the total destruction of life. Can you imagine, how many people these weapons would be able to wipe out these days with their higher yields? So even if they're talking about they're talking about tactical nuclear weapons, and they are designed to have a lower yield. You're supposed to be able to use those in more of a concentrated area. They're not coming up out of silos or submarines or from bombers. They are, on smaller pieces of equipment. Even that would be totally beyond the pale. Why are we even at this point where we are willing to go to the wall and risk, again, nuclear annihilation? I cannot say that enough, for Ukraine. Okay? Why are we antagonizing China over Taiwan? Guys, we got something coming up in November called an election. A lot of these young fools and decrepit crypt keeper people who have been in there forever, who have gotten us to this point, need to be shown the door. All right, guys, we did a video on the real estate market and hard assets in general. Are they facing an engineered attack from the Fed, non-governmental organizations, and large financial institutions? They just might be. And look at the video to find out where we go with that and how you can prosper in that situation. Guys, I'll talk to you soon.